Welcome to the I Love CVille Show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on a Monday afternoon. The phone has been blowing up off the hook here, and I'm in the midst of trying to schedule a meeting now with a client, a business broker client. We have a deal on the very near horizon that we're excited to relay to you once it closes. An institutional business about to trade hands into an empire of someone locally that is just red hot with business success. This is going to be a storyline that will be at the forefront of all legacy media that we're brokering currently, literally during the show right now. A lot I want to cover on the program. I want to talk about the UVA Health, the alleged fraud that's happening within the health system. 128 physicians, roughly 13 or 14% of the university physicians group, penned a letter outlining corrupt medical protocols and practices, fraudulent billing in an employer and health system that is rampant with abuse of power, rampant with backroom dealings, rampant with the C-suite utilizing bullying and leveraging tactics to keep middle management on the hush-hush when it comes to what's best for patients, the manipulation of medical charts to maintain performance metrics. I mean, this is just a crazy effing story. We're going to further unpack it today. I'm going to ask you this question, and it's a story, it's a topic that got me thinking, John Blair got me thinking on. Is this UVA Health story the most significant story in University of Virginia history? Where does this story stack up versus other significant stories? For example, August 11th and August 12th, 2017. Where does it stack up with other stories from the university's past? Maybe the assimilation of women into the university. My dad attended the University of Virginia in 1968 as a first year from Hampton. And he remembers coming to the university in a coat and tie when it was all men. And then he remembers graduating from the university in '72 when it was no longer coat and tie. He likes to joke it was tie-dye and sandals, and it was co-ed. Where does the UVA Health fraud, the alleged fraud and abuse of management and cronyism stack up with some of the past storylines of significance in the most prestigious institution of higher learning in the Commonwealth, one that has recently been monikered a new Ivy League school? Interestingly, the Board of Visitors is scheduled to meet, good Lord, to be a fly on the wall, scheduled to meet on Wednesday of this week, Thursday of this week, and Friday of this week. The Board of Visitors, the Glenn Youngkin-led and influenced BOV, is meeting this week. I'm going to ask you this question. Is this the most significant BOV meeting from a damage control standpoint in University of Virginia history? I understand when we start making statements like most significant in history, you have to be careful of hyperbole or exaggeration. But I think, folks, in these particular circumstances, it's applicable and fair, that type of terminology. I want to talk about that today. I want to talk on today's program the Commonwealth Skybar location. It's been vacant for a while. When's the last time something's been in Skybar? Was it Passiflora, the Hunter Smith champion restaurant group?
Yeah, that was it.
You're talking a restaurant that is one of the most marquee and significant ones. Why it's marquee and significant and important is because it's on a portion of the mall that struggles with visibility, customer engagement, and frankly struggles with safety, especially at night and after hours when there is not many patrons heading to that side of the mall. The Skybar storefront being vacant is incredibly impactful when it comes to downtown Charlottesville and the most important 8 blocks in a central Virginia region that's 300,000 people strong. I'm going to ask you this question: what should be done with the Skybar location? We're going to talk on today's show. I was blown away by this. I was on the UVA corner late last week for a meeting. And while on the corner late last week with a meeting with a very prominent UVA corner landlord, I walked by the white spot and I got to the intersection of the corner and Temp Street, right under the rail pass where the trucks get stuck. And at that intersection, across from Boylan Heights, there was a bona fide Futon right next door to the white spot, where this Futon now serves as the dormitory for the houseless population that is panhandling the students and their parents as they pass by, the houseless population that is passed out and sleeping off a drunken stupor or a hazy high, a Futon that is aggregating and collecting trash, booze, needles, and paraphernalia in pretty significant proportions. When do we say, no, you can't have a Futon, and no, you can't have a home base for shooting H, smoking crack rock, and enjoying a 40 of your finest malt liquor while aggressively panhandling passerbys? I want to talk about that on today's program. I'm going to talk Ziana Bryant, raising money for first-generation college students on today's show, and we'll dissect Virginia's victory against Wake Forest. What a win. I stayed up and watched this. My wife fell asleep in the fourth quarter. I was waking her up in bed. You got to look at this. One of the most significant comebacks I can remember for Virginia football. Tony Elliott's team starts 2-0. Anthony Calandria, at times magical, at times demoralizing. Regardless, Virginia heads into week 3 with a 2-0 record, and the Maryland Terrapins hitting Scott Stadium. Golly, we have a lot to talk about on today's program. We'll highlight our friends at Pro Renata in Mexicali Restaurant. I was at Pro Renata yesterday. My wife and I, our 2 boys, we met another husband and wife and their son and daughter at Pro Renata. We enjoyed beers on the playground. Then we went inside, had Dino's and Moo-Through, and then finished our outing while looking at the Blue Ridge Mountains over some hazy IPAs. It was excellent 3 or 4 hours outside the house. And if you have yet to try River Hawkins and Johnny Ornalis, their newest creation, Mexicali Restaurant in the old World of Beer location, guys, you're missing a fantastic dining experience. It is sensational. The artwork in there alone, and then you try the food, the cocktails, and listen to the music, and you have one of the best dining experiences, soup to nuts, in the region. Mexicali Restaurant, Old World of Beer location. There's 50-plus parking spots on site in that building. It is a special restaurant, Mexicali. Judah Wickhauer on a 2-shot. You also see Charlottesville Business Brokers as a partner of the show. We're brokering a deal right now that is scheduled to close on the 26th of September. And when we can make the announcement of what's coming down the pipe, it's going to shockwave the business community in Central Virginia. Positive impacts, my friends. Judah on a 2-shot. What storyline do you find most significant today? Judah B. Wickhauer.
I can definitely understand why we're still on this UVA story, because I think it is pretty big. Whether or not it's the biggest story in the entire history of UVA is a little beyond my knowledge, but it's definitely the biggest in recent memory.
Okay, I'll do this. we'll try to do this in a sample size that's manageable first. Viewers and listeners, I want your take as you rotate the lower thirds on screen for the first stories for the UVA Health fraud story. I'll first set the stage. If you missed Friday's show, you missed one of the best shows we've ever done. The feedback I've gotten from the physicians group members and viewers and listeners has been significant, as significant as any feedback that I've ever had for any show we've ever done. I encourage you to follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, watch there. 128 members, was it, Judah? Of the UVA physicians group?
So.
Signed a letter. And in this letter, the physicians document, and I'll use the word allege fraud with medical billing. Mm-hmm. They allege patient charts were changed in the health system's favor to maintain or preserve performance metric momentum, changing charts to make sure UVA Health keeps its pristine reputation and its accolades. Billing fraud, where patients would point out concerns when it came to their bill, and then the health system said, no, that is in fact a fair charge, when it knows it is not, and or charging patients and their families for line items that were not actually utilized during care. It alleged this letter signed by 128 UVA physicians group members that the health system's leadership utilized practices of, bullying is putting this lightly.
Yeah, culture of fear and retaliation.
To maintain the status quo. If you do not do what we say, you will not get promoted. You could get fired. You are going to toe the company line if you want raises or promotions, or your job is at risk. You're talking about cronyism. You're talking about fear tactics. You're talking about billing fraud. You're talking about medical corruption.
Malpractice.
This is malpractice. At a time where human beings, our families and friends, are in our most vulnerable state when our lives or our health of us personally or our loved ones are on the line.
Yeah. Pressuring doctors and nurses to not use the Be Safe process to report patient safety concerns. Come on. Do you want to go to a hospital? I don't want to go to a hospital where they don't want to report safety concerns. That's terrifying.
Terrifying. Another one most important element for the integrity, the foundation, and the hospital's well-being is trust with its patients and its doctors, its nurses, and support staff. If the word trust is eroded, and the public does not have trust in the health system, then the health system, I don't see it having justification for existence, and I see it being on very shaky or vulnerable ground.
Yeah.
This is a monumental effing story here. The best part for UVA Health with this storyline is the 128 physicians that signed the letter. They did not understand the news cycle. If this story and this letter, if it broke on Monday or Tuesday of the news cycle, the momentum and the coverage would have been considerably more significant than what we've seen already. This story broke on Friday, gained a ton of attention on the I Love CVille show at noon on Friday. And then it went through a weekend, a Saturday and Sunday period, where media is very meager in its coverage. Legacy media in particular. Not a lot of staff working on Saturday and Sundays. So the opportunity for investigative reporting went 48 hours with a quiet period because legacy media is extremely vulnerable right now in a fragile state. I'm very curious to see if the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Those three publications in particular take a deep dive on this topic. I'm following that extremely closely right now. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, this question. A small sample size, Judah. Remember, the Board of Visitors is meeting Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of this week. The BOV, the folks that run the university, the BOV now dominated by Youngkin, the governor, his appointments. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you this question. August 11th and August 12th, Nazis invaded grounds on A11. They marched all over the lawn, around the rotunda, terrorizing students and staff and locals alike with tiki torches and chanting nasty commentary about Jews. Then August 12th, downtown mall, right in front of I Love CVille, all up and down Market Street, the deepest, darkest, most disturbing day in Charlottesville history, potentially A12. Does UVA Health, this physicians group, 128 doctors signing a letter alleging fraud and malpractice, cronyism, nepotism, bullying, fear, and backroom dealing, does that storyline compare, contrast, supersede the A11 A12 damage control and storyline at the University of Virginia?
I think the story blows that one out of the water. That story is something that happened on UVA grounds. I don't think it was. I don't think it could be laid at the feet of anyone at UVA. Certainly, nobody at UVA organized what happened on A11 at UVA, and this is. I mean, this is major. I don't know. The letter, it seems to me like this is, I think it was mentioned in the article that this is kind of a last resort. I think the people involved in this were probably wondering why UVA hasn't done anything about this before now. And the letter was a way of saying, look, this needs to get out there. People need to know about this, otherwise nothing is ever going to change. I think this is far more egregious. Specifically because this is something happening at UVA under the watchful eye of the administrators and not just some people coming to UVA grounds and being horrible people.
What are your thoughts on that take, viewers and listeners? What are your thoughts on what Judah had to offer there? Is the collateral damage of this UVA Health alleged fraud, cronyism, nepotism, backroom dealing, bullying, corruption, silo of power story, is that collateral damage more significant than A11, A12 collateral damage? Judah bases his argument, and I think it's an argument that has to be made, that A11, A12 were outsiders to the university. Outside of Richard Spencer and Jason Kessler, who are UVA graduates, and the organizers of A11 and A12, Richard Spencer and Jason Kessler.
Yeah.
They were the organizers, the ringleaders. I have to push back on you there, saying that it was purely outsiders.
Just because somebody graduates from a college doesn't mean that if they organize an event like this, that it falls on the college, to take responsibility for it.
Well, the college could have said, no, you can't do this here on August 11th, as opposed to essentially being quiet. Was that Teresa Sullivan, the president?
Did they file a request to...
The university could have done a hell of a lot more to keep Nazis from marching with tiki torches on grounds at the university.
Yeah, that's fair.
The university is punch drunk with its freedom of speech status, even if that means rolling out the proverbial red carpet to hundreds of Nazis carrying tiki torches and chanting nasty commentary about Jews.
Sadly, not anymore, despite their new status as top university in the, what?
The number one
US.
free speech university in the nation, recently allocated the same day that the UVA guide service was suspended and disbanded.
They've been getting some pushback about that.
We're going down a rabbit hole. We need to stay
Yeah.
focused. Judah makes the argument that it was Nazis who invaded grounds, and the nastiness was not done by UVA staff or those on payroll with the university, where this UVA health system fraud, cronyism, nepotism, bullying, backroom dealing, abuse of power story are actual people that collect paychecks with UVA branding on the paychecks
I mean,
or on the direct deposit line in the bank account.
this story potentially affects hundreds, if not thousands. I mean, how long has this been going on?
This
And
is
how many-
this is tens of thousands potentially.
And how many
Patients.
patients have been through the UVA hospital doors, UVA Health doors?
How many
since
patients?
this
How
has
many?
been going on?
Well said. I apologize for interrupting. How many patients basically just got their hospital bill, and because they were in such a state of vulnerability, just said, "I'm not even going to push back on these charges. I'm just going to pay them."
Yeah.
I would bet you that's the large majority,
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
the very large majority.
I would say that not many people know what to do when they're put in that position, and you have either charges that were mistakenly put on your bill or fraudulently added. I think most people are in a position where, like you said, they're very vulnerable and they don't know what rights they have.
I relayed a story last week. We missed a show last week. Our youngest son, 22-month-old, went to the UVA Children's Hospital because he had a clogged tear duct. And it was like a $11,000 bill. We have catastrophic insurance as someone who's self-employed. They said, all right, give us your insurance card. Here's our Anthem catastrophic insurance card. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, you owe us $4,200, $4,200 and some dollars. Pay us right now. I got my arm around my wife, who's extremely worried, same as I am, because our 22-month-old is about to go under anesthesia, is in a hospital gown, and is about to be carried away from us in the arms of strangers. Nurses and doctors, thank God they were fantastic in their care, for surgery next to his eye. Mm-hmm. Comes out of anesthesia as angry as a stirred hornet on a hot summer day. Didn't even recognize him. Confusion and anger coming out of anesthesia for a 22-month-old. At the time, we weren't concerned about whatever it cost. We just wanted our kid to be healthy.
Yeah.
How many other people are in that scenario? And this was a routine surgery. Imagine quadruple bypass. Imagine cancer. Imagine someone who's flatlined or on life support. What their loved ones are thinking that are paying the bill.
Yeah.
All right, I'll offer you my perspective, then I'll get to some of the viewers and listeners' perspective. $128 people willing to put their name to it. I pushed back on them on Friday, not making the name more public, but they said, Board of Visitors, we will tell you who signed this. We just don't want to do it in public now because we fear the dean of the medical school and the CEO, the head of UVA Health, Craig Kent, was going to rain the devil's rage on us for signing this letter. So we're not going to put our name on it in a public capacity. I pushed back on these 128 and I said, I understand you may be dealing with the devil's rage, but you have powers and numbers, and you should have inked your John Hancock. Regardless, they're willing to reveal their John Hancock to the Board of Visitors when they meet Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week.
Yeah.
If you have 128 people that have gone into significant student debt, that are pursuing a career path that is less today about money and more today about helping other people, then the merit or foundation of this storyline really seems to me to be one of true significance. And if this gets investigated and unpacked further and continues to dominate the news cycle, and it should dominate the news cycle, I think you have a storyline that I agree with Judah that is more significant than A11 and A12. And the point that Judah has made, these are folks that are actually on payroll at the university. Their direct deposit when it hits their bank accounts says something with UVA. If this has been going on for however long, we have no idea. This is thousands, if not tens of thousands of patients impacted by this. I'm extremely curious if this breeds a class action lawsuit of some capacity. If you're a patient of the University of Virginia over any period of time recently, is there a lawyer out there that's watching the I Love CVille show right now that is saying, we have a chance to galvanize all the patients during this period of time, maybe it's during Craig Kent's tenure. Board of Visitors, I hope you're listening to what I'm saying. I know a lot of you watch the show. Jim Ryan, UVA, BOV, Craig Kent, listen to what I'm saying. Is there an attorney out there that's going to say, start time of this, maybe at around Craig Kent's tenure, investigation from when he started going through today, patients that went through UVA Health, let's ask them and do a call. We would like to speak to you to see if you're curious of joining us in a potential class action lawsuit against the university. The basis of this lawsuit is potentially fraudulent charges on your bill.
Yeah, anyone with even a whiff of a charge that doesn't look copacetic is probably going to dive headfirst into this.
There it is. And if you have a number of patients and some aggressive attorneys, and say what you want about attorneys, and a class action suit is filed or pursued, you have a brand and health system that is on very shaky ground here.
And that's not even to mention changing patient records. I mean, it's one thing to financial fraud is one thing, and it's terrible, especially for all those people that may have had it perpetrated against them. But imagine a class action lawsuit going after information on any patient records that may have been changed. I mean, that's fraud on a whole different level.
Kevin Higgins, watching the program, highlights this. Leadership at the university, Craig Kent or anyone right below him, is any of his bonus tied to billing and physician performance, health system performance?
That's a great question.
It's a great effing question. Is C-suite compensation in any capacity tied to the health system's performance from a metric standpoint and or total billing standpoint? I'd like to know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I think we all deserve the answer to that. The story here is one of an erosion of trust with the health system. The story here is one of fraudulent billing. The story here is one of malpractice and management tactics rooted in the worst type of leadership.
Yeah.
And the collateral damage is potentially a class action lawsuit that seems, at a cursory glance, heck, not even a cursory glance, after a 3 or 4 day glance, I've digested this story over the weekend and spoken to people, a lawsuit that seems to have some merit.
A lot of merit.
And now the Board of Visitors is meeting Wednesday in Charlottesville, Thursday in Charlottesville, and Friday of Charlottesville. As of Thursday morning of last week, the BOV had this on its agenda: the UVA guide service. The PR fallout from suspending a third-party UVA guide service, tours led by students that were offering commentary during their tours that were nasty rhetoric about Thomas Jefferson and his place in history.
On the day that they get
the top Freedom of Speech Award
for free speech.
For free speech.
And
as of last week, the Board of Visitors had to talk about the new protest rules The fallout of a pro-Palestine protest in early May of this year that saw students pepper sprayed at the hands of the state police who were used as the military militia.
And some students still waiting for resolution through the UJC.
Their degrees. Some students waiting for their degrees that were arrested and their degrees were held as leverage. All those storylines take a incredibly far back seat to this UVA health storyline. You can make a very legitimate argument that the 3 days the BOV is in session this week, it is the most significant BOV meeting from a brand collateral damage standpoint in University of Virginia history.
Yeah.
What would supersede or trump that? Women allowed into the university? Black and brown and folks of minority allowed into the university? A11 A12? Good God.
They're going to be doing damage control for a long time on this.
This from John Blair from Friday evening. He's given me permission to read this. This is a direct message. I never read direct messages without permission on the record. He said, please feel free to read this on air if you think it is worthy. Because he said that, I feel compelled to read it because I have respect for the man. Jerry, you and I have been around Charlottesville and UVA for decades. We know the difference between a 24-hour story and a real story. In my opinion, the UVA health story may be the largest story in the region and the school's history in the 21st century, except for August 2017. While every individual deserves due process, I am floored that 128 employees are willing to sign their names to a letter that alleges potential patient care compromise. Mm-hmm. This situation requires a special meeting of the Board of Visitors in which crystal clear transparency is provided. There is no other option for the BOV in a matter in which physicians allege potential substandard patient care. In fact, I believe that the Attorney General should be called in for an investigation. Please feel free to read this on air if you think it is worthy. Best, John Blair. Judah giving you props, Judah. He also says, as an old sports reporter, I'm sure you recall the term lack of institutional control by the NCAA. This letter reads like UVA Health lacks institutional control, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. How do they not know about this for however long it's been ongoing?
Holly Foster and Henrico.
For 128 people to be completely fed up and willing to potentially lay their jobs on the line.
The 128 people said this is our last resort of trying.
Yeah.
Last resort.
Mm-hmm.
Viewers and listeners in Richmond, Northern Virginia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Tennessee, the Philadelphia area, a lot in McLean, Southwestern Virginia, watching the program. My phone is blowing up right now. Comments coming in. This is from number one in the family, Deep Throat. He says this. UVA health system is another example of what happens when you have a company town. Limited competition. Few alternatives for patients, few alternatives for doctors and nurses. Who has the power? The UVA health system brass has the power. That said, when 30 years ago, I spent a couple years in management consulting, I did a lot of healthcare and health system work. All health systems upcode. All health systems game quality indicators. So to simply allege that, well, we need more details. In any case, I could not ever get care there on a reasonable time frame, so I got a concierge primary care doctor here and for predictable issues. I will deal with them in visits to Houston. Tons of competition at Texas Medical Center, almost 20 different hospitals. He also says this, we know that nothing will happen to UVA health system if this issue never gets beyond Charlottesville. this could be a big deal if CMS or the DOJ get involved. He says no locals can hold UVA accountable. How this story gains momentum, and it should, is two ways. The class action lawsuit, way one, and way two, how this story gains momentum. Two papers in particular, New York Times or Washington Post, cover it. Third paper, Richmond Times-Dispatch, could be a platform for the New York Times or the Washington Post to cover it. And I guess a third way, if the Attorney General decides to pursue some kind of investigation here.
I hope they do.
Or I guess the fourth way, if Glenn Youngkin, where does the governor stand with this?
Yeah.
Where does Glenn Youngkin, whose term, after this term, he's not going to run for governor again? No back-to-back governor. Where does Glenn Youngkin stand with a university that clearly does not fit or mesh with his ideology politically? How does Glenn Youngkin instruct the Board of Visitors, 13 his appointees, in a meeting on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to pursue this storyline? Is there an investigation that will be initiated by the BOV? Will the BOV even let us know, the public know, that an investigation has been initiated? The public deserves to know, because trust is arguably the most critical component of a health system ecosystem.
No doubt.
Trust and patient care, hand in hand. This comes via DM. Another wrinkle and local internal perspective. The UVA employee academic and medical side plan is a self-funded plan directly pooling employee premiums to cover charges. Of course, there is price steering toward UVA employees using the UVA system. If all this is true, then what a topic of how much did these practices harm the acute local community and actual employees in premiums while enriching charts and executive bonuses for med center elites? Is this DM allege that the bamboozling could have actually impacted or influenced or affected the employees themselves under healthcare, under UVA healthcare?
I think so, yeah. You're saying that could employees have been enriching themselves through the fraudulent charges?
It's fucking bananas.
I mean, we don't know the pay structure or
worse, could
type of-
the brass be enriching themselves on the backs of their lower and middle management, their frontline workers?
that too.
Kevin Higgins' deep throat is exactly right. Another aspect of this storyline to follow is the importance of the health system in the Charlottesville, Albemarle, and Central Virginia economy.
Yeah.
The weakening or the damning nature of this alleged story, how does it impact the economy in totality in the region? Does it impact the economy in totality in the region? Does it impact performance metrics, performance standards, or how independent third parties grade the health system? And if independent third parties poorly grade the system, does that mean less folks are willing to travel to the health system for care? And is the fallout of that less economic impact, hotel room stays, eating out, visitors spending money in the region? Not to make it about money, I'm just unpacking every story line here.
Yeah, well, imagine.
This is an investigative report. This is Reynolds Hutchinson of the Daily Progress. He's the editor. I hope he hears this. This is a storyline. As a former newspaper reporter myself, Virginia Press Award-winning newspaper reporter, television host and producer, and syndicated radio personality. All those roles I had prior to launching these businesses 16 years ago. This is the type of storyline, as someone who has news radar, that you could have coverage for days, if not weeks. Mm-hmm. You have the actual investigation storyline. You have the storyline that is the class action lawsuit. You have the storyline where frontline workers exploited in some of these charges. How many patients were exploited? How many doctors and employees were bypassed for raises and promotions? How many were fired?
Yeah.
How does this impact performance or lack thereof? How does this impact bonus pools? The storyline of the Board of Visitors collateral damage and brand control. The storyline of how it impacts the economy. The storyline of how this impacts Centerra. Does this drive, is this tailwinds for Centerra?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Centerra, Martha Jefferson, is this tailwind? Is someone who's got an injury, broken arm, some kind of routine appendix?
I don't think Centerra has quite as much available in terms of services as.
No, but
as
for the
UVA.
routine, are you less likely to do an elective surgery now that's routine at UVA Health and more likely to do it at Martha Jeff because of this story?
If I had knowing this story, I would 100% look for somewhere else to go.
Do you understand, viewers and listeners, the significance of what we're dealing here? Judy, you better sleep with one eye open tonight.
You think?
Leave the side door light on and keep the crowbar under your bed. At least I got a German Shepherd and a 12 gauge and a 9 mil.
Put Kent and Kibby on the radar of my my local neighborhood.
Your
watch.
neighborhood association. Get their photos into your neighborhood association's radar now. If they see them around Judah's very large estate and abode,
Yeah.
tell Judah
Large
immediately.
estate.
Holy sh!
I'll keep my BB gun loaded.
I mean, you're talking billions of dollars here.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars.
Potentially, yeah.
This comment comes in, you got it right, saying elites taxing the non-elites that are captive in their medical plan. The people behind the letter and signatures are not dumb. They are doctors at UVA, much smarter than I could ever dream of being. There has to be some accuracy to this story, but bigger story is if they felt the way to get this out there is via an article, then that means they don't trust internal audit and whistleblowing options internally.
Oh,
That is a very bad look for the health system and its parent governance structure. 100%. I would take it that the 128 members of UVA Physicians Group, by signing the letter in person as opposed to email trail, try to bypass Freedom of Information Act protocols in case leadership, Kent and his team, decided to figure out themselves who signed this letter.
Yeah. And these are smart people. The comment was 100% correct. These are not idiots. These are not people that want to put their jobs in jeopardy. But clearly they're, I mean, we have to, I think, we have to assign this to integrity rather than some type of, I don't know, wanting to get revenge against the CEO.
Someone who passed him on a promotion?
Yeah.
And we'll close with this. I want to see the tenacity veracity, and activity of legacy media when it pertains to this story. We're going to learn a lot about legacy media with this right here. I want to see if legacy media is willing to stare down the barrel of the corporate behemoth that may or may not drive their ad revenue. I would bet you that University of Virginia, and there are many subsidiaries, is a significant player in the advertising budgets of legacy media. I remember when I worked at the Daily Progress when it was owned by Media General. I will not say who the publisher was, but the publisher, when I was there, made it very clear we don't poke the beast. Made it very clear we do not poke the beast.
I think this has gotten far outside of the range of a newspaper to control, and they would be fools not to follow up this narrative.
I agree with you. Investigate the narrative. I agree with you. Because if you choose not to investigate storylines of this magnitude, you become
irrelevant?
There it is. So it's 122 marker of this talk show. UVA Physicians Group, UVA Health, and viewers and listeners, make sure you share this show with friends and family, because I think it is one that is absolutely on point with what's happening right now. The Board of Visitors is meeting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week to be a fly on the wall. To be a fly on the wall. We have other stories we have to cover today. I want to spend about 90 seconds on this one.
Is the Futon?
Dude, there's a Futon on the right next to the white spot in the UVA corner.
Yeah.
Like an actual Futon. I was in a business meeting last week that had me meeting with one of the most prominent landlords on the corner. I walked by a Futon with drug paraphernalia, empty booze cans, and the comforts of passerby panhandling. Does the Futon takes it too far? Does it not?
I think it just...
There was a report...
I don't know if I'd say it takes it too far.
There was a report filed by a young woman who works in food and beverage. Did you see it? On the My CVille app?
I believe I did see it. That was the one where she was being...
sexually harassed and called sexual names as she walked and left her job on the corner in food and beverage.
And tries, whenever she can, to walk with male colleagues to obviously be safe.
You have someone that could be our daughter, someone that could be your daughter, saying, I don't feel safe walking on the corner at night by myself, in particular at this spot under the underpass where the homeless are using a futon as their home base. They are calling me names about my behind, about my hoo-ha, about what I look like and what they want to do to my body.
And one of them even grabbed at her.
One of them grabbed at her. Enough is enough. There's empathy, and there's a hand up, and there's safety. And we're past the point of safety if a teenage young woman is saying they are grabbing at my hoo-ha.
Yeah.
That is disgusting, right?
It is. It's disgusting, it's unconscionable, and it's,
currently allowed on the UVA corner.
No one should be fine with this happening, especially on the corner.
On the corner.
You know,
especially on the corner. That's the point.
Young men and women, you know.
Especially on the corner. The next headline. What should go into Commonwealth Skybar? Are you with me on this one as you put the lower third? That location, Alan Kajine's Commonwealth Skybar, the home of formerly Passiflora, which the previous restaurant group ran into the ground. We don't need to mention that. Are you with me that the location makes that piece of real estate so prominent for that side of the mall?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you and I both remember, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers remember, back when Commonwealth Skybar was hopping.
Hopping. We helped launch Commonwealth Skybar. We work with Aaron King, who's watching the program, Justin Butler, Alex George We helped them launch brunch. Justin and Alex and Aaron made Commonwealth Skybar the hottest spot on the downtown mall.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hear music, you'd see people up on the second floor balcony.
The Bulgarian beauty Ina working up there. Frank, before he met the Bulgarian beauty, one of the best servers in the business. Now look at it.
Yeah.
And the reason it's so significant, explain why.
I mean, you probably could do a better job than that. I can. To my mind, it's hearing that music, seeing the people there. It's part of what makes the downtown mall a fun place to walk is seeing the people, seeing the places open, and I don't think there's really, I mean, in the evening there's nothing past there.
There's nothing past there.
Unless there's a special event at the pavilion.
At one time there was Bashir's, which is now, I think, Operation Hope.
Yeah.
An assimilation arm of the of the city of Charlottesville that takes folks that have done hard time in prison, has them meet on the downtown mall in the old Bashir's location, and they give them a path to reassimilate into society. That closes at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Everything on that side of the mall, if there's not an event at the pavilion, is completely covered with the cloak of darkness and about as unsafe as any aspect in the city as you can find. Mm-hmm. I would not want my wife to walk on that side of the mall at night. I wouldn't want my wife, when she's with her friends, to walk on that side of the mall at night. I wouldn't walk on that side of that mall by myself at night. I probably wouldn't walk on that side of the mall with you at night. I may walk on that side of the mall with you and me and our German Shepherd that's 100 pounds named Max on that side of the mall at night. Maybe. The Skybar location owned by Alan Kajin is critically important for the downtown environment because it creates activity.
Yeah.
And activity breeds other activity, creates other businesses. Mm-hmm. And also with activity, people and customers, you have foot traffic, which means you have additional sets of eyes that create safety. You have lights on, you have positive noise, you have music.
Yeah.
That's a critically important aspect. I hope it returns to fruition. I believe it's JR that has the lease, Hadley, friend of the program, partnered with one of the head honchos on the QIM side. I would love to see that return. Two other storylines. You set the stage for the Ziana Bryant one. This was your headline today.
Well, as
lower third too.
As you like pointing out, we give props where props are due, and we've often been critical of Ziana Bryant, but in this case, we have some props to give. She's been raising money through an initiative. Let's see, it's called the. Can I find the name? Support for Black First-Gen College Students. And she has raised over $34,000 so far. She's helping students, often low income or even temporarily or currently houseless families, send students to their first year of college. And, I give her props. I think it's a great initiative. I think she's doing good work with this, and way to go.
I will also echo Judah. Ziana Bryant, props to you. Doing a great thing, helping Black first-generation students matriculate to college settings by raising money in a crowdsourcing capacity. Big-time props.
Yeah.
Love this story.
Definitely.
We'll close on this if you put me on a one-shot. Virginia football jumped to 2-0 on the season. We called the Wake Forest game the most important on the schedule. For 3.5 quarters, it was hit or miss. Anthony Calandria did amazing things, and Anthony Calandria did bewildering things. But the quarterback found magic in a bottle, lightning in a bottle, and Virginia beat Wake Forest in Winston-Salem on national television. A come-from-behind win that would not have happened last year. It would not have happened last year. They lost all the single-digit games last year. This one of magic, one that I woke my wife up after 11 o'clock and said, you got to watch this. She woke, she removed the sleep mask, she stood halfway up in bed out of her slumber, and she woke up, and we watched Virginia football win this ball game. They have Maryland on the schedule Saturday, national TV, 8 o'clock kick. And get this, the ACC network is sending its broadcasting crew to Charlottesville and will do a live broadcast from Charlottesville at 11 a.m. The first time the ACC network has broadcasted live for football in the network's history. The first time in the network's football history is doing it live for football from Scott Stadium. This is a big deal. You win this, you get 3-0. You start 3-0 on the season, and you get momentum, you get confidence, and you have a chance to go 5-0. I told you in the beginning of the year, and we'll break this game down tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. with Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe, the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer. We said you have a chance to go 4-1 or 5-0. We said it. And then you see the true meat and potatoes of the schedule, the back end of the schedule. It's the Monday edition of the I Love CVille Show. Tell your friends, spread the gospel. I think this one was significant. So long.